Okay. Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Tesla Roadster podcast. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning. Welcome, everyone.
And the picture behind us is an AI rendering of, I asked a whole bunch of Roadsters for sale. And you know, it didn't disappoint. It sometimes throws in Fords and Chevys and a whole bunch of other vehicles. But in this case, they look like all Roadsters from here.
Yeah, they really do. And, the first impression I have, of course, is what do they do? Take every single Roadster on Earth and put them together in one parking lot?
Yeah, that would be about right. Of course, there aren't really this many Roadsters for sale, but there are a lot. And we're going to go through some of them today, talk about them. One that just sold on our Roadster matchmaking site. If we can bring up a picture, it's the VIN 1296. And this one sold up in Canada, Langley, British Columbia. The asking on this one was $100,000. It had 19,000 miles. It was a 2011, and it was in excellent condition. It had the original battery pack, and anyway, that was one that just sold. Then there was one that sold on Bring a Trailer, and let's bring up that one as well. That would be the VIN 1419 on Bring a Trailer. And we were all watching this. In fact, we were promoting this, if you remember.
I do remember.
And you had theorized that maybe this thing sold for a record amount most recently anyone on Bring a Trailer because of the amount of promotion that was being done.
Well, you have to wonder about that because we promoted it pretty heavily. We know there are others in the industry that were out putting the word out, trying to promote it, trying to get the price up. And this particular Roadster sold for $88,000, which for Bring a Trailer is probably about $10,000 to $15,000 higher than we've been seeing recently.
Yeah. Now, to put it in perspective, this was a 2011 Roadster, black on black, with a Visium top, which really adds some appeal to a black Roadster because the carbon fiber roll cover on the back there is now visible. Instead of being covered by the traditional black hardtop, which is what this would have had. So black on black, the mileage wasn't bad on it. Let's see if I can get back to that. Yeah.
Around 19,000 or so.
There it is, 19,000 miles. It had the original 53 kW battery pack, and the CAC wasn't bad on it. So, yeah, we finally got one on Bring a Trailer that made the seller happy, I believe.
I think so, and I'm congratulations to the seller and to the buyer of this car. We don't know who either one is, but we're, for all the Tesla Roadsters that I'm seeing be put up for sale, it seems like we're starting to see a little bit more movement of Roadsters as well.
Which is exactly what we're waiting for. On the flip side, there are more cars coming available for sale. We've got another one that we can throw up here, guys. It's VIN 1147. And this is a electric blue Tesla Roadster. The mileage on it is 33K, and the charge level in standard mode is 150 miles, which he says was a 22% decrease from 192 miles when he first got the car. So he's the original owner. Excuse me. This car was also a showroom car in Santana Row, which is the San Jose showroom for Tesla, for many months. So it was featured by Tesla. And it's got those beautiful silver wheels. Also, it's got a 3M protective wrap and Italian leather option, high-end sound and navigation package when he bought it.
You know, we've got a question that just came in on TikTok. I want to just jump to real quick. Along the lines. This is from Daddy Chris, 1980. Thank you for joining us. Says, what's the highest mileage Roadster that you've ever seen?
That we've ever had in the shop? It's actually a local customer, Rolf, very active in the EV community.
Oh, yes.
He has a black 2011, and he's got like 120,000 miles on that. He does rent it out for Turo. So I think that's what's adding some miles to the car.
Sure.
Is that even more than the world traveling one?
No, I think the world traveling, well, Raphael's car.
Raphael's car was high in mileage, but it wasn't as high as Rolf's. Because even though you think about it, driving around the world, well, driving around the world's about 25 to 30,000 miles.
Yeah.
and he had not done it twice yet. So he's putting a lot of miles on it, but I don't think it was as high. I think it was around 75,000.
Now there's a challenge for us. Let's find the highest mileage Roadster. And if any of you watching have any information, we'd certainly like to have you share that statistic with us. But yeah, Rolf's car, the CAC is very low. I think it's around 100. And his charge in standard mode is under 100 as well. It's in the mid 90s or so. So when he comes to our service center, he lives about 30, 40 miles away. He immediately has to get a charge because he doesn't feel safe that he's going to be able to get home again.
Sure. And then on Instagram, Patty Cakes says, can you change a battery on a 75D to a long range? And how much would it be to do so?
We're talking about Model 3 here, I would imagine. And how much? That would be a Tesla question. We don't work on the Model 3s that much because most of them had been under warranty for many years. But in the Model S world, yes, you can upgrade up to 90 kWh, and they don't suggest going to 100 if you've had anything less than that because there are suspension changes that are made. There's airbag timing functions that are affected, and you probably won't be able to bring it to a Tesla service center if they found out that you've hacked it or in some way modified or gone beyond their recommendations.
Right. And then,
LinkedIn, Darius Mohahed says, do you offer battery repair for BEVs other than Tesla? Well, we used to. We used to when we got started. There weren't enough Teslas for us to work on initially. We did a lot of Priuses. We did Chevy Volts and Bolts and Ford Fusions. These days, we're 100% Tesla and about 95% Tesla Roadster. Those are the ones that we give priority to at this point.
yeah, as we continue to grow, we're opening up a little bit more on the Model S area. In general, the Model 3 will be coming. We know it's a tidal wave coming. They're just not enough of them off warranty yet for us to get a lot of work.
Right. So again, staying with the theme of how many Roadsters are currently for sale and coming up on the Roadster matchmaking site, can you bring up picture VIN 1002? This is a beautiful Arctic white Roadster in the UK, and it is a left-hand drive vehicle. It actually came from Hong Kong, and it was one of those that was tucked away for a decade or so in a controlled environment, or at least a sheltered environment. And according to the seller, this car is absolutely pristine. It is a white LHD Roadster with 1,675 miles on the odometer. It's the CAC is currently 152, and it's showing 185 miles in standard mode charge. This was a car that was bricked when it was arrived, or when it arrived in the UK, and it was repaired by a couple of companies that he mentions here: Conrad from Mars Orbiter in Germany, and Neil Wise from the UK. And I forget the name of his shop.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, but most people know him as Neil Wise. So this car is currently in the UK, and it will be posted here soon. He has driven it 75 miles since its battery repair, and he said the condition is just flawless. Kept indoors at all times, never driven in wet climates is his guess. And he has pictures from the underneath of the car as well, all of which we'll be posting on the Roadster matchmaking site soon. And you can tell that either he or has a professional photographer involved in the pictures, because this is a pretty decent picture here.
It is, and I can see why you have talked about Arctic White becoming one of your favorite colors. That is such a stunning car.
Yeah, with the right options, and it's like a white canvas, basically. Then we have another one, VIN 854, which is also coming available for sale. This is a 2010 Roadster Sport, and he says it's not just any car. It's the radiant red twin to Elon Musk's spacebound Tesla, marking it as the 854th car ever built. It has 3,300 miles. It is a one-owner vehicle. and he feels that it's a piece of Tesla history as a result of its relationship to the space roadster. It also stands out with the fact that in August of last year, it had an R80 battery upgrade, and it also received new tires at that time. All of the recommended maintenance and updates are from Gruber Motor Company. The car was at our service center for a while, and currently it is in completely restored condition. So this one will also be available on the matchmaking site here within the next week or so.
Well, you know what? Like Daddy Chris 1980 is saying, these are beautiful cars, great options. And we have some cars here that have some pedigree, the low mileage pedigree on some of these cars. And like this one here with the exact same look as the Mars Traveler. That's pretty cool.
Yep, we've the 38-mile Roadster course, which now is the lowest mileage Roadster that anyone is aware of on the planet. It is now owned by a couple of collectors, and they're storing it at our facility. And then we've got Founders number 3 in the service center, which is also for sale. And then we have another Founders car, and for confidentiality purposes, we're not going to reveal the number or the owner. But there's some pretty cool cars. So another thing I wanted to share with the Roadster community.
Yeah, this I like to call what happens on the Roadsters Armstrong power steering. It's steering that'll make your arms strong. But this this right here is a little different than that.
This is a power steering unit that is ready to go into Roadsters, and we currently have 5 of these in stock. We've had inquiries over the years, never quite found a product or had one of the owners get serious about it, but this is now available. These are brand new. They are plug and play, basically. They will fit into your Tesla Roadster, and they will make it easy to turn in a parking lot when you're not moving. So look for this on our e-store page. These will be out there shortly. There are some options that come with this. A couple of options are the steering control and a variable potentiometer control. In fact, I have a little bit of information here about that. There's a speed sensor that's available. And the trick with power steering is you don't want 100% performance all the way through in a linear fashion. You want it to scale back the faster you're going or the faster you're turning. So this will, there's some electronics that go with this that will adjust automatically with a speed sensor or a steering potentiometer where you can dial in the amount of power steering that you want. By the way, they call this a steering amplifier, and it actually makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
Well, sure. When I say power steering, I immediately think of power steering pump, hydraulics, so on and so forth. And that is not this at all. This is a small electric motor that helps to amplify what you're doing. You could call it power steering because it's powered. But I like the term steering amplifier much better.
And by the way, we looked carefully at the construction of these units, and it is first-class, top-notch machine parts, extremely well done, stainless steel hardware. It's definitely a professional unit, and there will be 5 of them for any of you that are interested in putting power steering in your Tesla Roadster. And of course, you could lift weights with this thing too.
Yes. So a couple of comments coming in on TikTok. Jay Manji says, "Are you hiring?"
We're always hiring, yes. EV@gruber.com is where you want to send your resume. And for people that are local, that's probably the easiest hire. We just added, by the way, a young intern to the shop. And Nick comes from the robotics background at ASU, Arizona State University. They have a great robotics program. And he's beginning to add a lot of value. Comes
Love
with
seeing that.
engineering skills, soldering skills, all the things that we find very useful working down to component level troubleshooting.
Well, and if you're the one who told me he has experience in robotics, has even been on the Discovery Show BattleBots with
Right.
one of his, with an entry. So that's comes with good credentials. And welcome, Nick, and glad to have you on.
Mm-hmm. YouTube Highlander says a continuation of the group of companies 2 for Tuesday's podcast. Yes, this is the second version. P.S. Kindness is always free. And then he adds, for a 69 Roadrunner, 469 Plymouth Roadrunner owners, we call it strong arm steering. Thank you for the correction, Mark. Yeah, that is for sure. And you certainly did not want power steering in your muscle cars.
Oh, no, not at all. On TikTok, Don Bravo says, how many maximum working load average to each 18650 battery that you showed on your YouTube?
How many maximum load working average?
Well, we know that each individual battery is about
4.2 amp hours. Okay, I see.
yeah.
Where he's going.
Is it 4.2 or is it 2.3?
4.2. Oh, I'm sorry,
No.
4.2 volts, 2.3 amp
Yeah,
hours,
2.3 amp hours.
3.2 for the later version.
Yes,
Yeah.
and for the later version, and then they'll take and you put 69 of them. Is that correct? 69
Per
of them
brick.
in parallel
Mhm.
per brick, so that gives you the amp hours, and then you take 99 bricks
You're getting it, Mark.
and
All
put
right.
that, and you've got them put in 11 sheets, and the sheets go in series. That raises your voltage up to basically 400 volts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you nailed it. And yeah, those bricks is where the problem is. When you connect a bunch of battery cells, and I'll bring up a little AAA here, you connect all these in parallel. What you end up with is the same voltage. It's still 1.5 volts, whether you have 2 cells here, 69 cells, or 5,000 cells. It's going to be 1.5 volts. What changes is the amount of power, the amperage, in other words.
Yeah, it just
or the
becomes a
amp
much bigger
hours.
battery, basically.
Exactly. So in the Roadster, they connect 69 of the 18650 cells in parallel. And now what happens is if you get one bad cell, it will begin to become parasitic and drain that brick.
Hmm.
And that's the majority of work that we do, is finding that needle in a haystack. Instagram, Wal Swan, remind me of green screen. Okay, yes, go over to the YouTube channel.
Ron Burgundy moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait.
Got me.
While SWN, yes, if you're watching on Instagram, you're going to see a green screen. You're not going to see the picture of all the Roadsters in the back.
Well, at least they're not putting cuss words in there anymore.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
All right, so going forward here, anything in parens indicates something that you guys type, not the customer, all right?
Yes.
All right.
I'll try and put it in a different color or something.
So here's his question. He says it's not a technical question. What is it with the sunglasses?
You know, oftentimes we're asked that question, and we just cannot reveal that yet. But if you continue to watch, at some point in time, we're going to have an expose as to why sunglasses are always involved in Gruber productions.
Okay, so this one is kind of a controversial one.
All right, Instagram, Jose A0709. Make sure you wear PPE. Gruber does not supply them. Okay, paint. Yep. PPE.
Personal protection.
Personal protection. Right.
Equipment. Yeah.
Equipment, yeah. For any high voltage work that we do.
Yeah, now I do believe that the guys are using, at a minimum, they use insulated tools and things like that when they're doing their battery work.
Well, sure, and we've got 2 divisions here that are very much into PPE. Gruber Power Services, for example. They work inside large cabinets with oftentimes 80 batteries connected in series and parallel, high DC voltages, and insulated tools are definitely an important ingredient there.
Yep. Not sure where you're getting your info there, Jose.
Yeah,
Appreciate the comment, though.
And then in the lab, everything is turned off. Like when we work on power electronics modules, they normally have 400 volts being fed to them. But by the time they're taken out of the car in the lab, there are no more residual voltages there.
Right, everything is turned off, and we're definitely careful. We're pretty proud of our safety record, actually.
Yeah, you were just talking about that actually in a meeting. For 3
Yeah,
years
I heard
now,
about
we've
that.
yeah. Our EMR rating, you were
That's
saying,
right.
is
Our insurance, the National Insurance Institute, of every company that's more than about 50 employees gets a rating, and insurance rates are based off of this rating. The EMR rating is basically a measure of how safe you are over time. It's about a 3-year look back. Anything 1 or less is considered extremely good, and our rating this coming year is a 0.81 because we've gone now 1,414 days without any safety incidents at all.
Mhm. And that makes a huge difference, by the way, being in business. If your rating is high, there's certain types of business that you won't be able to get. Contracts with the federal government, for example,
Yeah.
Boeing, any of the mines, for example, here in Arizona. They would actually exclude vendors that don't have a EMR rating within a certain threshold.
Yeah, Honeywell is famous for that as well. That they're not alone. Where companies that even the Taiwan Semiconductor manufacturing company, they're moving into the North Phoenix area, building out a new facility, and they pretty much have said, "Hey, if you want to be our vendor and your EMR rating is above a 1.25, just don't even bother. We're not going
Yeah.
to talk to you."
Instagram, Wall Swan says, what silicone gel are you using below IGBTs in the inverter modules you repair? In the power electronics module, we actually have been advised to not use gel because it is somewhat conductive. So the vendor that makes our insulating material has very specific recommendations about torque settings, how much compression we're supposed to do,
Mhm.
and they do not recommend gel. So yeah, we don't use it. As far as the manufacturer and the type of insulating material, I don't have that at the tip of my fingers
Yeah, I
here,
don't know what that is offhand.
but it is definitely important. If you don't use it, you end up shorting 400 volts DC to ground, and you get lightning and fireworks. Jesse, we have a picture here that staying with that with that steering, power steering. It's called power steering. And here you can see where this power steering unit that I had up here, and please don't ask me to bring it back up because it's pretty ugly and heavy. That's where it sits. And you can see it is just below the dash in a Tesla Roadster. And to the right where Mark's head is where the steering wheel normally mounts. So we're looking forward to getting our first customer for this and installing one of these in a Tesla Roadster. Have another image. This is the MC120 upgrade. Sometimes in the Roadster world, you hit on something and you realize, oh my God, there's a lot of pent-up demand for this. And the one that surprised us was the amount of people that want their MC120 yellow charge cable upgraded and converted to a 10 gauge wire and 25 feet long.
Yeah, I'm going to move to the side here a little bit.
Yeah. So what you see here on the right is a much thicker and longer charge cable, which now eliminates the need for extension cords. One of the biggest problems with Tesla Roadsters is if you're using the yellow charge cable, which is highly convenient, plugs into any 120 volt outlet, dedicated preferred, of course. Oftentimes it's not close enough to the charge port on the car. So what they end up doing is going down to Home Depot, Lowe's, Dollar Store, wherever, and getting an orange extension cord, which is usually 16 gauge. It's not even good for 10 amps or barely. And 50 footers on top of that. In order to use an extension cord with the stock yellow charge cable on the left there or behind me, you need at least a 10 gauge extension cord and no more than 25 feet. Otherwise, the car is going to recognize a voltage drop and complain and tell you on the VDS screen, we detect an extension cord. Get a better cord, buddy. This modification gives you now, instead of 12 feet on the stock cord, 25 feet, which usually eliminates any need for extension cord.
Right.
And it gets rid of that GFI plug, which is on the end of that cable. And the reason we recommend that is, as our e-store description describes, that GFI plug has been responsible for more brick Roadsters than any other cause. They don't last forever. They go defective after some time, usually about 5 to 7 years. And if you're plugging them into daisy chained outlets, which most people do because in residential settings, they did not install dedicated outlets. That's an additional expense. Instead of being able to daisy chain 4 to 6 outlets per 20 amp circuit, going back to the circuit breaker, a dedicated outlet means that there's a home run from that outlet to the breaker panel.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did that for every outlet in your house, you'd run out of outlet space or circuits pretty quickly.
Yes.
So what this modification allows you to do is get rid of that GFI plug, which does not fare well in daisy chained outlets because there's already a voltage drop often, and it becomes far more reliable. Now, having said all that, some of the customers send us the entire yellow charge cable, the stock 12-footer, and we then rebuild it. Or in one case in Las Vegas, he shipped us just the Roadster plug portion, the proprietary charge plug. That's all we really need. So if you want to save a little bit on shipping and you want your yellow charge cable rebuilt, send us just the proprietary Roadster charge plug, and we'll put a 25-foot cable on the end of it with strain relief and get rid of that GFI plug for you.
That's been a surprisingly popular option, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. In fact, we probably get about one a day these days. Another one came in yesterday, one came in today.
Yeah,
We don't know.
You don't know. We put products out there. I remember we took a chance that somebody might want shocks.
Mhm.
Now we can't hardly keep them in stock.
Right.
They go so fast.
Right. Have another picture that we can throw up there, I believe. See here. Yeah. Charging options, Jesse, if you can throw that up. And here we get into the 3 charging options for a Tesla Roadster. You had the HP or the TS70, which was the high power wall charging station, which is on the far left there. Those, by the way, are highly reliable. They are better than the old Suntron units, which were larger than that, which had a problem charging the 2.0 Roadsters. So the TS70 is a workhorse, and if you have one, keep it. They are repairable. If you have a problem with yours, you can send it to us, and we do repair them. There's nothing molded. There's nothing proprietary in there. They are fairly low tech, but they are quite repairable. Then in the middle, you have your UMC or the MC240, which is a 240 volt charge cable. And that's what plugs into a dryer plug. Unfortunately, unless it's a plug related issue, and you see you have a lot of plug and socket combinations there, if it's in the main contactor unit, which is that piece above the charge cable there, those are not repairable because they're potted. In other words, they poured a bunch of tar in there and almost like an epoxy type hardness.
Right.
And you really can't dig into there to repair anything. If you have one of those that's defective, send that to us, and we are able to take the proprietary Roadster plug on the end and put a 25-foot cable on it without the GFI plug, comparable to the upgrade that we do for the MC120. And now you end up with a upgraded MC120 charge cable for 120 volts.
Okay.
All right, got some questions there.
Yes. First on YouTube, Highlander says the Gruber team would never go cheap on safety, period. Highlander, you are correct. We take safety very seriously, and it's a big deal to us to make sure that we are safe, that we stay safe. We have found that the best thing we learn from is if somebody has a close call. We don't wait for an accident to occur. As soon as something happens outside of the norm, we take action. In Instagram, Wales SWN says it's very impressive work what you're doing, guys. How can I connect with you for upcoming projects?
EV@gruber.com. Yep.
Yes.
TikTok, Van Goat. Hey, thanks for joining us. My Gruber family. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Van Goat. And then Highlander again. It's a 40-year electrician. I can tell you, stay away from
GFI.
DFI
Yeah.
and the wrong applications.
Like you were mentioning, oftentimes the breakers these days are GFI. The
Yeah.
outlets are GFI, and they really conflict when you have. And that plug is notorious for failing.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, that's one of the main repairs we do when these MC120s come in. It's usually in the plug. All right, I've got another picture to throw up here, Jesse. It's called Solo, S-O-L-O. And what you'll see here is some cars that are not Tesla Roadsters. These are the Electromechanica Solo cars. This is a three-wheeler. It has an in-wheel motor. And these cars are being sold up until February of last year. This is a picture taken at their facility out here in East Mesa. You can see one of our electrical vans in the back there, Gruber Power Services, and we're here last week to pick up some product that we bought since they're liquidating this 235,000 square foot production facility. The reason that I'm bringing up this information is this is reminiscent of the EV1 debacle, where in 1994, GM decided we're not going to proceed producing electric vehicles. We are leasing about 1,800 or so to owners, and we're going to retrieve them all and crush them. And despite the pleas from the owners who love that electric vehicle, by the way, one of them's in town here, John Martinson, who thoroughly enjoyed his EV1. They, since they owned the vehicles, they had the rights to retrieve them, and they did, sometimes even close to forcibly, prying them away from the customers who wanted to keep them. This project is reminiscent of that EV1 crushing, and the reasons are kind of murky at this point. One of them is a financially driven reason regarding high tariff costs. In order to retrieve tariffs, they have to crush them and prove that they are crushed. The other is that they have technical issues that are preventing them from being able to stay on the road. Eventually, all this information will be revealed. But the reason I'm bringing it up here in this Tesla Roadster podcast is I don't think people realize how close Tesla got to crushing the Tesla Roadsters just like this to recoup their losses.
Sure.
Because remember, had it gone Chapter 11, which was they were on the verge of bankruptcy, there would have been a liquidation, and the liquidation would have included retrieving any assets possible, just like this company is currently doing. What we're buying from them, by the way, is production-type equipment, charging cables, tables, chairs, tools, a lot of tools, EV-related tools. And the auction is continuing, by the way. For those of you interested, it's through Auction Nation here in Phoenix, and it's out in East Mesa. But yeah, the more I thought about what I saw here, and there are more cars inside, by the way, the more this reminded me how close Tesla actually came to potentially going the same path as this company is going, or as EV1 did in 1994 when they decided to retrieve their assets. And
first, this is one of the saddest pictures of EVs that I've ever seen.
yeah, I agree.
It's just it's so sad to see that. I was looking forward to seeing the Solos out on the roads. They were going to be as much of an attraction, I think, as a lot of the other more unique cars out there. I don't know if it would be as much as a Cybertruck, but it would have gathered attention. And it's really sad. And there were at least 2 occasions I can think of where Tesla just about folded their cards.
Yeah. And these cars, by the way, were on the road, many of them. They retrieved them from owners. They purchased or they bought them back. And if you're interested, there's some YouTube videos showing these cars out there in the wild. The range wasn't spectacular. It was about 80 miles. It was a single passenger commuter car, basically. And, like the Aptera, this was a 3-wheeler. It definitely had the chance to grow some legs. but got cut short for a number of reasons. And I'm sure that from here, a lot of more information is going to come out, but everything we've shared with you is what we know so far.
Yeah. The good question for us coming from Van Gogh on TikTok. He says, how's the new building coming?
It is coming along nicely. The storage area is almost complete now, and what we're talking about this new building is a exotic car storage building that will specialize in Tesla Roadsters for the collectors that want a responsible storage company that knows how to charge the car, how to check on it to make sure that it's properly being maintained. Each of the Roadsters in this EV storage facility is going to have an OVMS system, Open Vehicle Management System, which is then tied to a server, which is constantly polling each car's charge level, condition, health, any errors that are being fed, and the same information will be available to the owners on their cell phone. They will be kept on 24/7 charge through umbilical cords coming down from the ceiling, and that's one of the reasons we bought so much from Electromechanica. We bought a bunch of charge cords, brand new, that will be used in this storage facility. The storage area is environmentally controlled. We're not talking about evap coolers and high humidity levels means they shut down in the summer and the cars are hot. These actually have 6 air conditioning systems that are pumping air into fully insulated walls. The block walls are drywalled, 2x4 studs with at least R30 insulation in the walls. The roof and ceiling is foam on the outside and R38 on the inside with scrim sheets, white scrim sheets covering all of that up. One of the things that I found most noteworthy was we've been having warm days in Arizona. It's about 80 degrees for the last week or so, 78, 80, somewhere in there. But the mornings are cold. We're, high 40s, low 50s or so. And usually any of our spaces by morning are pretty cold. I went over to this storage facility, still under construction. It's closed up though. And it had been open the day before, so it got up to 78, 80 degrees, like the ambient temperature outside. By morning, even though it was in the 50s, low 50s outside, it was still warm inside the building. So I knew that we were going, and that's no power yet. So there was no air conditioning or no heat.
Yeah.
So its ability to preserve its ambient temperature runs very high compared to any of our other buildings.
Well, that's going to be remarkably good for the building, for us, and for the cars, because we want these cars to be in a highly controlled environment. The best way to highly control it is to have a good insulation protection for them. The
floor will also be an aggregate type epoxy floor. And the front office space, there will be a control room, lots of flat screens, and there will be 24/7 staff monitoring these cars. So we're looking forward to expanding our services to the Tesla Roadster community. And it should be done, everybody asks, by summer this year. I think we'll be able to put cars there, and we'll have this up and operational and running. And it's been a long haul, 2.5 years of restoring and rebuilding.
Yeah, that's going to be good to get this one behind us, honestly.
Oh, yes.
Highlander is another comment he has for us. He says, please keep in mind while you're doing this live podcast, there are a lot of other very influential podcasters doing the same. I'm sticking with Team Gruber. Well, thank you, Highlander. That's a high compliment for us.
Those other guys, they're very talented. We are in communication with a lot of them, and it depends on the kind of content you're looking for. But yeah, we also do joint podcasts with them at times. We have them in on Zoom calls. There's a good partnership in this industry. There's no need to be competitive or adversarial. It's kind of absurd if you think about it.
I mean, I can think off the top of my head, we've had Bearded Tesla Guy, we've had Farzad Misbahi, we've had Sandy Monroe,
Ellie in Space.
We've had, that's what I was thinking of.
Kim Java.
Kim Java has been with us. And so
Linda Gioviti. In fact, we're doing a podcast. I'm doing a podcast with her this Thursday.
That's fantastic.
She calls herself the Automotive Woman.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them out there, and we love having them on our podcast and being on theirs.
TikTok, Daddy Chris 1980 says, that was sad. Francis Ford Coppola got one of those EV1s. Yeah.
That was.
It was a sad period in history, and the fact that it's being repeated makes it doubly annoying and sad and difficult to deal with.
I'm just wondering who is going to manage to salvage and keep one of those Apteras, get them away from the company, and store it, hide it in a garage, hide it in a barn, something like that.
Now, unlike the EV1, where ownership was GM,
Yes.
these cars are actually owned by the owners. And
Okay.
there is a buyback that they're offering, but there may be an owner that simply won't allow them to pry it away from him
Yeah.
or her.
Yeah. Maybe they come back and say it's not going to be registerable. We're going to go to MVD and you're going to have to take it off the road. And they'll say, okay,
It's my
gonna be-
collectible now.
going to be worth that much more in a few years.
Well, it's also the guy that we saw on YouTube that got his picked up from his apartment for the Solo. He said that they're not going to service it. They're not going to provide any kind of ongoing warranties, any of that stuff. So you kind of had no option at that point.
And you know, when I hear things like that, that's music to my ears because we're an independent EV organization. If an OEM actually tells an owner, we're not going to service your car anymore, guess who steps up to the plate?
That's right.
All right, so question was asked by a Roadster owner. I need to replace my rear tires and will be ordering off tire rack. What do you recommend I get? By the way, in the Tesla Roadster world, you're going to eat through your rear tires 3 to 4 times faster than your front tires because it's so difficult to keep your foot off the joy pedal. I learned
Yes.
that the hard way when I first got my Roadster. It was within 6,000 or 7,000 miles that my rear tires were bald. The front were fine, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here were the recommendations from some of the top contributors. And this is from Thomas West in Texas, actually. He says, couldn't say enough positive things about the Continental Extreme Contact DWS06 Plus. They are smoother, quieter, longer lifespan, and much safer in the rain, since I know you drive your car daily. I also recommend replacing the fronts at the same time for the best experience and road feel. So there you have it. There's a strong endorsement for the Continentals. And if any of you have other recommendations, would certainly love to hear it.
You know, we were talking, it's been a few podcasts now. Car makers or tire makers are coming out with EV specific tires.
Yes.
And we were looking at the price difference versus the performance difference, and we're like, there's a slight performance increase on the EV tires, but there's a huge price difference. This might be one case because the rubber compound on the EV tires is usually slightly reformulated so that it will last longer in an electric vehicle application. I wonder if there's an EV tire that would fit a Roadster.
That would be some research worth doing, wouldn't it?
That one might be worth doing.
TikTok, EI Angel, good luck with everything. Been learning a lot. Thank you. Well, thanks for joining us,
Thank
EI Angel. Got another picture to pop up here. Tesla Takeover. We talked about this in the last podcast, but it's worth reiterating. There will be a Tesla Takeover Europe, and there have been 3 of those in the United States so far. In fact, the last one in California, Mae Musk attended, and she was one of the keynote speakers. Well, Europe, not wanting to be left out, is doing the same thing now, and it's happening May 25th and May 26th of this year, in a couple of months, in Flachau, Austria. And it'll be right next to the popular Tesla supercharger in Flachau. Europe takeover will be up to 1,000 Teslas are expected amidst the beautiful nature of the Alps. And as we mentioned earlier, the area where this is taking place is outside of Salzburg, Austria, which is where The Sound of Music was filmed. So picture the rolling hills, the stark mountains with snow on them, the alpine lakes down below with crystal clear water. This is the type of environment where this takeover is taking place. We've been honored to be a keynote speaker at this event, and I will be there May 24th and 25th. It's highly convenient for me because the town that I was born in, just across the border of Austria in Bavaria, in Rosenheim, we were visiting my brother around that time anyway, so I'm going to be there and I'll be at the event. They say that this takeover event, Tesla Takeover event, will have a wide array of speakers, workshops, live music, light shows, and so much more. And of course, good beer. Have to throw that in. Most importantly, though, it's an opportunity to bring the Tesla community together all in one place. And the 3 editions here in the U.S. were by the Tesla Silicon Valley Owners Club.
Yes.
John Stringer being a large part of that. So join us if you can. There will be clubs from all over Europe there. Portugal, Sweden, France, Austria, Germany, Belgium, and some of Scandinavia as well further north. So this should be a good event. And there will be Roadsters there. That's one of the reasons I'm bringing it up here. At least one of our customers from Portugal claims that he's going to have his Roadster there. And some of the repair organizations will be there as well. So it should be a well-attended event, should be interesting. And we invite you to join us there.
Definitely look forward to hearing about that. Are they going to be live streaming anything during that takeover?
You know, I don't know if the group is doing it, the Takeover group, but we are.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. My son, Max Gruber, who is very much into video streaming and photography and videography, will be there, and we'll be doing a lot of live streaming while there. So might even do a podcast from there, come to think of it.
I think we've talked about the possibility of podcasting from there, maybe on that Friday or something, doing something special there while you're there and we're here in studio and have you on a Zoom call or something like that.
That would be cool. Time change. Let's think about that for a moment. You guys are 11 o'clock here.
Yeah.
That's going to be a 9-hour difference. So, no, it's not bad.
That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, that'd be in the evening. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is when the festivities are taking place.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So plan on joining us. Yeah, we'll have some live activity as well, it sounds like. Matt Clower from TikTok says, what kinds of opportunities are there to hang out with y'all in Phoenix for fellow EV nerds? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because on a daily basis now, we are giving tours of our EV facility. It takes about 20 minutes or so, and we take people through the entire process, showing them all of the engineering work that takes place in the engineering lab, the battery bunker, how the batteries are kept on life support, the shop area, the low-tech auto taking place along with the electronics work. And it's an experience. People love it. Larry Douglas from TikTok says, why the shades? And I ask respectfully. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
We get both kinds of questions.
Well, we do.
What's wrong with you guys? Well, it's a well-kept secret at this point, and we will be sharing that at some point in a video release. Why are there always sunglasses involved in Gruber Productions? And by the way, there are a wide range of opinions and guesses as to why.
There are. I was thinking, Larry, you're the third person today that's asked us this. Yeah. And I don't think we've had questions about this in probably 3 or 4 weeks at least.
Right. A lot of suspicion, a lot of conspiracy theories. Some people think that we are avatar AI and that we have red glowing eyes and we're able to hide that with these sunglasses.
Yes. I think of Scott on X-Men, with the ruby glasses. No, that's not us.
Yeah. And then, of course, there are other, questions. We're very close to a pot growing facility here, and we're trying to hide our, bloodshot eyes. The best one that I like was when I was doing videos next door with the sunglasses. Somebody said, boy, he sure moves fast for a blind man.
Yes.
But there will be a reveal, and I think it'll be quite entertaining once you guys hear the real reasons for the sunglasses always being involved. YouTube Highlander, quality costs, and it sounds like you're going to provide quality for these nice high-end cars. Absolutely.
Yes.
In the exotic car storage world, oftentimes there is little expense spared because some of these cars are worth millions. The Tesla Roadster hasn't quite reached that elevated level of value yet. And I do say yet because I'm very optimistic that these cars at some point in history will be right up there with those very rare cars. There were only 2,400 Roadsters built. And one of the hallmarks of a collectible car is uniqueness. Is the OEM still around? How many were built? Is it limited production? And in this case, did it change an entire industry? And the Tesla Roadster arguably is the car that started the EV revolution.
Yeah.
So right now, they're incredible bargains. One of the themes in this podcast was how many are for sale. I would say that if you want to broaden your bank account or diversify your investments, throw a Roadster in there, and I don't think you'll be disappointed long term.
On Instagram, Groups SPR says hi. So good morning and welcome. And then Highlander on YouTube says, I'm told Sandy will be there. I'm sending you both my submarine picture. He says my email is still blocked. It's the only reason why I'm talking on this platform. So Highlander,
Well, I didn't know that Sandy was going to be there, but if that's truly the case, he and I have a pact when he was on our podcast. We're
That's
both
right.
from Germany or have German roots. And we had agreed that we were going to hoist a Hefeweizen one of these days in Germany. So this may be it, and I'm definitely going to reach out to him now to confirm.
yes.
I think Highlander's talking about the event that's happening in Michigan.
Michigan at the Highlander Scottish event.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I thought there was another Tesla takeover happening this summer in Michigan, maybe, or some kind of event happening there.
I know
Not
that
sure.
I know there's something happening up in the upper Midwest in Michigan. Highlanders mentioned that to us, and it's happening in June. That one's different than the Tesla takeover that's in Europe.
Well, I think Sandy's back from vacation now since he's on, he's going on record with 2 Cybertrucks. I'll promise you that I'll reach out to him this week, and I'll let you know in the next Roadster podcast whether he's going to be at the German or the Austrian Tesla takeover. All right, we have another item here. This is another image that we can bring up. I think it's an image here. Yeah, it's called ADE Days. And for those of you that are anxious and tracking Raphael de Mestre's next trip around the world, his Tesla Roadster was rebuilt here in the United States. It came to Florida, Miami, Florida, bricked on a clipper ship.
Mhm.
Came to our service center. We took it over to Tesla. We got the replacement battery pack inserted and then went through a number of upgrades. We weatherproofed the car. We rebuilt the PIM. We did a number of things that would allow him to now, again, put it into a less than stellar environment, rain, weather, all of that.
Right.
And from there, it went to Carl's shop up in Seattle, got a bit more work done, and then it ended up being transported with much difficulty, finally arrived in Hong Kong. And it's now sitting there in customs, waiting for them to do their thing. So that map there shows you its trajectory. And if you're interested, if you go to adedays.com, you can see more of the story. But Raphael's aim is to, again, go around the world, attempting to avoid some of the troubling hot spots that are in that area.
Mhm.
Don't think he's going to go through Russia. Don't think he's going to go through Ukraine. I think he's taking the southern route at this point.
Yeah, that's my understanding. When he last talked to us, that he was going to go through the southern countries that part of the former USSR, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, over into Turkey, and then basically just circle around the whole conflict that's going on over there.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then we've got another picture to throw up here. It's called Service Cart, Jesse. And I wanted to show our audience that, and our competitors or partners, how we are developing tools to work on Tesla Roadsters. And this one is kind of interesting. We recycle critical power equipment, and battery cabinets oftentimes have these graded shelves in them because they have to hold 5,000 pounds of weight. So when we scrap these, we typically retrieve the shelves, and it occurred to us that we can weld these into shop carts for the mechanics out on the floor working on the Roadsters. When we do suspension type work or brakes, the wheels and tires have to come off, and we typically have to take those over onto a tire rack because we're a neat and clean shop and we don't like the stuff laying around on the ground. There's also a safety issue there, people
Absolutely.
tripping, trip
Absolutely.
hazards. So it occurred to us that if we make these carts, they'll be dual purpose. They'll hold all of the tires for a Roadster and give a work surface, 1/8-inch aluminum plate up there to work on the Roadster. And we're finding these to be quite useful. And as we get these types of tips for tools that are working out well in our Roadster shop, we'll be sharing these with you.
Yeah, I was surprised at how enthusiastic our mechanics were when they got that first cart and
Oh, they love it.
and started talking about it. They just raved about it. Went on and on and on. When are we going to get more? And it's a great idea. And I was surprised at how enthusiastic they were, and I was very pleased to see that too.
And we're also happy that we're repurposing and, refurbishing and not just throwing this stuff to the scrapyard.
Right.
It gets a second life. Got another image here, label -1, Jesse. And this one had us perplexed. We have a Founder Series Roadster in the service center right now, and it has a battery problem that we're working on. And anyway, once we opened up the battery pack to get to one of the sheets, sheet number 5, one of the bricks has a resistive cell. We looked over at the DC to DC converter on the far left there, and that's called also the APS unit, auxiliary power source. It's what converts 400 volt string voltage from the main battery pack down to 12 volts to power all of the 12 volt devices in the car, from locks, headlights, audio equipment, VMS, all of that. The next image, label -2, is what had us surprised. Bring that up here in a second. On this APS unit, or on this DC to DC converter, was one of our Gruber Power Services warranty tags. And we put these on anything that we work on, which typically tells us that this has been serviced by us before,
Right.
and that there's a warranty on this product. Well, we'd never worked on this car. So we were trying to figure out, how did our label get inside this ESS pack?
Oh, absolutely.
And then we figured it out. We have done work for Tesla before. We've repaired boards. We've repaired subassemblies for them. And it looks like one of the things that we repaired for them ended up in inventory, and a service center used it, and they ended up putting it into an ESS pack in a Roadster that we've never seen before.
And so we ended up getting back. It's small world.
Very small
This
world.
small
yes.
world. That's pretty cool to see.
But that's one for the books. So, and it looks like Instagram, the McCall Malvia. Hope I pronounced that right. Can you tell us more about reverse engineering of MCU coding? The MCU, of course, is in later model Teslas, starting with the Model S on up. And reverse engineering that product is a combination, definitely, of software and hardware.
Yes.
I can't quite put anything in a nutshell for you, but what it requires is some very specialized skills. Linux computer skills, for example, component level troubleshooting skills, years of experience in electronics. Repairing electronics is a bit different than reverse engineering, because now you have a whole different level of complexity. You have to figure out what those components are doing, rather than just which ones are defective. Right. So, it would be quite a long story. But if you're interested, email us at ev@gruber.com with any specific questions, and we'll see if we can answer them for you. Staying with that for just a moment, we're also the kind of business that uses artificial intelligence, and uses it a lot.
Yes.
And find it quite useful. Some of the type of work that you're asking about here is being fed into AI. We have a Roadster GPT now, which is a custom a GPT program that we can ask questions to, even verbally, through cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And it like any large language model, it can juggle a huge data set, and it then tells us what kind of fixes we have had in the past, or the information that Tesla supplied on the Tesla Roadster, because we fed all of that in there as well.
Yeah, we have found that that's been incredibly useful to us. ChatGPT is, this is one of the more amazing things I've ever seen in computer science, where we took our history and notes that we had logged over the last several years and just dumped it basically into this GPT large language model. The GPT parsed through the language, parsed through the engineering notes that we've been accumulating, and then parsed through the hundreds of pages of PDF documentation that Tesla released to the public domain. And it has synthesized it and just has put it together. So now we can ask a standardly worded English type question, and it will come back with an answer based on the information that we fed it. It's absolutely amazing. The whole process took us, I would guess, less than an hour. It took far longer to get the information downloaded and put into the GPT than it did for the GPT to analyze the information and be able to start using it.
And we just, I mean, it was like a miracle. We were just shaking our heads, amazed at the AI capability. And we're not done. There's a lot more we're feeding into it. Our mechanics and technicians are finding great value in this tool. And as I point out often, this type of tool has a direct benefit to our customers, because the distance between diagnosis and repair shortens enormously when you have that kind of an ally on your side, or that kind of augmentation available to you.
Well, it takes away tribal knowledge, because the tribal knowledge is the bane of the existence of any business. When somebody who has 5 years of experience leaves, corporately, you just lost 5 years. If somebody who has 5 years of experience has documented that experience as he's gone on, and you feed that into a GPT, now you've lost nothing. And your organization can continue to learn and get smarter over time, because the people are not holding that knowledge just inside their head. There's a way for that knowledge to be fed into something that can do all the organization for you. And that's also incredibly useful.
IP retention is what I would call that.
Absolutely. Ali Akbari 10 on Instagram has asked a question of us about a year ago. He says, I asked this question about a year ago, and I want to ask it again. Do you guys still think that hydrogen is not the future, even though all the big manufacturers are turning to hydrogen?
Personally, I think it's a misdirection. It still is. It's plumbing. It gets us back into what we're getting away from with the ICE engine cars. And if you look at the amount of development and infrastructure being evolved for EVs, nothing even remotely close is in place for hydrogen.
Yeah, on the infrastructure side, we're seeing more infrastructure being deconstructed for hydrogen and making the press than we are seeing infrastructure being built. I'm very intrigued about the concept of what I've heard called either gold hydrogen or white hydrogen. And that's hydrogen that exists in nature in deposits that actually refill themselves fairly quickly from the surrounding earth. That's an intriguing prospect, but that is years away, if ever, from being put into place. I'm also intrigued about hydrogen fuel cells, but again, it gets back to that whole infrastructure issue. And we reported just a few weeks ago about half of the hydrogen fueling stations in the Los Angeles area have been taken permanently offline due to too much cost and too little demand.
YouTube, Highlander says, Mark's audio problem seems to have been solved. Congratulations, social media team. So it looks like our audience was hearing some of that audio issue.
Thanks, Jesse, and thank you, team. Also, Highlander says, in regards to the Tesla takeover, he says, Sandy, both locations, Austria and Michigan.
All right, I'm going to reach out to him. We're definitely going to go have that beer finally. Another image to throw up here, charge standards, Jesse. And we talked about this in the earlier podcast as well. There's a company in China that makes these charge sockets and what they call charging guns. And this is one of the best representations or visuals I've seen regarding the topology of these various charge methods. Up at the very top, they show all of the AC charging methods. And of course, the J1772 is one of the most popular ones. Japan and North America are committed to that. Then there's the EU, the Menicus Type 2 standard. A lot more pins. And in the earlier discussion, we said, what's the reason for the extra pins? And then they reminded us it's three-phase power.
Yeah, these guys would be three-phase, and that makes perfect sense. I know just enough about three-phase power to be dangerous. But knowing that each you're going to have one plug for each phase, one plug for ground, and one plug for neutral.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 5 plug, and the 2 little plugs on top are likely data plugs.
Mm-hmm. And then if you veer off to, well, we've got China there with their GBT standard.
Mm-hmm.
Off to the right there, you see the NAC standard and how much more elegant that is, because it actually encompasses the upper portion, which is AC, and the bottom portion, which is DC. They had evolved some DC charging methods as well, DC and AC, in the case of CCS1, for example. The portion below is DC, the portion up above is a J1772. And this is in North America. Then the Chatamo from Japan. The lower portion is DC only. The CCS2 in Europe is a combination of their Menicus standard and the Chatamo, or the DC portion.
Yeah, the DC portion of the CCS1.
Yeah. And then finally, we've got the Chinese standard, which is larger, even larger, with the DC portion included. Now, in the Tesla Roadster world, there are adapters for the AC versions up at the top there, because Tesla Roadsters have their own proprietary charge plug. There isn't even a name for it that I'm aware of.
I've heard CAN Junior and CAN Senior. I've never heard anything else.
No, it's the adapter.
And that's the adapter.
Plug itself, yeah.
Yeah, it's just called the Roadster plug as far as I know.
So in the upper portion there, you can see that the J1772 AC now does have the CAN Junior. The way I remember them is CAN, J17, J, R.
Sure.
JR. The next one is the CAN Senior, which now is the NACS adapter, which allows you to charge AC again with a Tesla Roadster. But you can't charge stock Tesla Roadster any of these DC variations unless you've had the JDemo change done to your Tesla Roadster, where they actually feed DC directly into the portions that are normally fed by regenerative braking, which is a DC input.
Boy, I would think that could be dangerous too.
Well, first of all, Tesla will not service the Roadster anymore if you've had this modification done.
Yeah.
They feel there's a safety issue, and they didn't. It's not part of the original design.
Yeah, it's not part of what they did.
So it's not very common either. There are a handful of Roadsters that have actually had this DC modification done, where the Roadster could charge both AC and DC. But there is a picture presentation of the various types of charging standards. And the main reason I threw the picture up was the one on the right, the next standard. Isn't it nice that we're able to eventually combine all of these into one standard rather than having this many variations?
Oh, absolutely. And I've used Chatamo before. I've used CCS1. My Volvo that I have right now has a CCS1 adapter. My Kia Soul had a Chatamo adapter, which actually this picture is a little bit of a misnomer, because the Chatamo is noticeably larger than a CCS1. And of course, the J1772 we've used as well. Tesla is more elegant than all of those others.
Mm-hmm. And it's becoming much more popular. We like to think of it like dominoes falling, and there are very few manufacturers left that haven't committed to switching over to the next standard these days. All right, we're coming to the close of our Tesla Roadster podcast. And for those of you that weren't here live with us, that join us later, which is what we find is the majority of people that watch these podcasts, feel free to contact us at ev@gruber.com. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you guys and take care.